Good morning. I'm from born and raised in Pennsylvania, moved out to Denver, Colorado 3 years ago. Sorry, the voice is still a little hoarse, recovering from a cold. Usually watch you guys on YouTube basically every single day while I'm running, actually, Dan. So figured you might
Nice. There you
appreciate that.
go.
And in the evening, I watch Mark on a walk.
Do we
Um,
anger you and then you get more energy to keep going? Is that it?
Yeah, maybe something like that a little bit. Yeah. It's always a good time though. So basically had one open-ended question and then one short question for
Yes,
Mark.
sir. Yes, sir.
Open-ended question is for everybody.
Yes,
So
sir.
interested in talking about what happened in Charlotte with the Ukrainian woman. So I live in the heart of downtown Denver, Colorado, right next to Union Station, actually. The first year that we moved here, we didn't have a car, so we're actually at the mercy of mass transit. So I've taken the light rail countless of times, and it is never a normal experience around here. There's people with mental issues. I've seen people doing drugs. It's just really not safe, and you're always on edge. And honestly, the guy in the video for this Ukrainian woman seemed relatively normal to me. Like it wouldn't have raised my red flags with how he was acting when he first got on the train. So my wife, in addition, she had to take the bus down here for a period of time. One quick story: she was on a morning walk at 6 a.m. December, downtown Denver, going to get the bus, and a guy stopped her, threatened to kill her. She came back scurrying back, crying, the whole thing. So it's very dangerous. I take the train to the airport all the time. I always have to pay for my $10 ticket. The person doing meth next to me never has to pay. That they just look over it and they go on. And on my walk where I listen to you, Mark, every night at 16th Street Mall, they just redid it. It's beautiful, but I would tell you 40% of the buildings are boarded up on the first floor. And it's like walking around it like they emptied a mental institution down there. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So it's like really difficult. So I would say like my original question was like, how do we get here? Were the cities always like this? Is it something that just happened over time? But I think Sean and Dan and Mark answered that question a little bit earlier. So my other question is, how do we move forward from this? And like, how do we make it better? And how do we stop politicizing this so much and come up with like actual concrete solutions? Yes, National Guard is probably like a short-term solution. And yes, more police would help. But like, I also think there needs to be help for people with like the mental problems, with like the drug problems. Like, what's a comprehensive solution that everybody wins and we move forward?
Yeah. Before the guys answer, Israel says they targeted residential buildings in Doha. U.S. Embassy says Americans should shelter in place. Dan, thoughts on what could be done to make our urban life a little bit less tense?
Yeah. So, Paul, first off, it wasn't always like this. It was in the 70s and 80s. And then in the 90s and 2000s, there was a huge movement to move people off the streets, homeless. They anti-loitering laws that you could not just be on a park bench, you couldn't sleep in parks. And it coincided with a lot of people moving back into cities, urban development, neighborhoods that were, gentrified and or revitalized. Um, I think one of the big issues is there was a huge movement against, they said, sometimes homeless weren't treated well. Their budgets were cut for mental health facilities and shelters for where do you put people? But it is a huge, huge problem. I agree with you. We have 3 of our 4 kids take the subway to school in New York City. It makes us nervous every single day. We all have instances of it. I'm here in DC. One morning before we moved, when I was running, a homeless person jumped out from behind a bush with a knife and no shirt on. He was so whacked out of his mind that when I took off, he basically couldn't move because he was so drugged out. But it terrified me. And I started carrying mace running in Washington at the end because there were so many homeless people that were just crazy around town. It shouldn't be this way. And for the Democratic Party has got to acknowledge that and put solutions on the table beyond explaining and kind of being sympathetic for the people committing the crime. We have to remember the victims and the people of the society who don't want this and be on their side.
Sean.
I would just say, look, as I noted earlier, Republicans aren't going to, I mean, we have a couple cities that we're controlling, but I think for the most part, the big metropolitan ones, New York, DC, Chicago, LA, I mean, maybe LA at some point in the future. This is a decision for the Democratic Party, to Dan's point. Like they've got to decide, but when you go soft on crime, you're anti-police and you allow people basically to go, uh, create open drug dens throughout the city. That's not, you've got it. Someone at some point it's going to take leadership to fix it. I will say, as you know, the last week I've probably spent more time in DC than I have in quite a while, at different events, and it is a markedly different city right now. You feel safer. There's not urine and pot smells everywhere downtown. And that's a choice that all of these cities have to make. I am blown away when you see a mayor like Brandon Johnson in Chicago openly sort of flaunt his defiance to attempts to make it safer. I just, it is a choice, and it's not hard to fix this. You make it a priority. Giuliani did it in the 90s with New York. And, so these guys have to make a decision, but you can't have it all. You can't be anti-cop, anti-law, open drug, pro drugs, and then wonder why things are disgusting.
Paul,
I
did
do
you have
want to
one?
just flag there are a lot of red states with cities that have huge crime problems. From
Yeah.
New Orleans, Birmingham,
Right,
Memphis.
right, but again, the state
I know
is red, the
Democratic
city
mayors,
is
Yeah.
blue.
Democratic mayors, but they are Republican states.
Yeah.
The Republicans
Repub-
control the National Guard. Republicans
And-
control state police. Like, just to be
and,
fair.
and as I've said before, the malpractice of the governance of Democrats is manifest, but the malpractice of Sean's party to fail to find people who can run with better ideas and convince voters is also a big problem.
That was a delicious video experience. I think you'll agree. Now, what you need to do in return for getting to enjoy that is hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss a thing.